good evening and welcome to the Voices of the Vic podcast. I am Joe Thomas and tonight I'm joined by Mike Duffy. We are here this evening to discuss, we haven't been on for a little while, so we've come on to have a little chat about the last few games that Watford have been involved in. Just have a chat about kind of all things going on at Watford, really. Obviously, we've got a few games left before the end of the season. I believe 5 now, maybe 4. No, 4. Actually, I think it is now. Burnley, Portsmouth, Blackburn, Sheffield Wednesday. So, yeah, we're nearing the end of the season. So, yeah, we're just going to have a little chat, very informal, just to kind of just see where we think Watford are going to be going into the summer and into the 2025-26 season. As I said, I'm joined by Mike this evening. How are you, Mike? It's been a while since we've been on.
Yeah, it has. Yeah, it's good to be back, and it's different to what we usually doing. Sorry, which is the A to Z topics. So it's nice to actually sit down and talk about a match. Even though the last few, I know I think we were on for. In fact, no, we weren't on for the last win. The last win was the Hull City game, and me and you did the Swansea City review. So, a few topsy-turvy results, but performances are there, which is weird to say, considering we don't have the results to go with it. But yeah, glad to be back doing these match reactions, and I just cannot believe we're almost at the end of the season again. It genuinely feels like yesterday we did our predictions podcast for the season. So yeah, absolutely crazy, and yeah, I'm looking forward to the break, to be honest.
Yeah, it's been weird, isn't it? Because I think in our chat we were saying, weren't we, recently, that when the results are kind of going your way and you're doing well, it's great and you kind of enjoy doing it. But it's been a bit harder recently, isn't it? The performances haven't quite been there at times. Obviously, we know a lot of the time the team are doing the best they can, but yeah, it's been a tough old slog the last, I'd probably say, 5 games now, 4 weeks maybe, since the Oxford game. Things have kind of slipped away a little bit, haven't they? And we keep saying, if we get that win, we're back in it. Obviously, we lost to Oxford and thought it wasn't over. Then we had Plymouth, didn't get the win at Plymouth. Thought, we got one more chance against Bristol City. Didn't quite happen. Obviously, got the win against Hull, but as you rightly pointed out in our chat, after the Hull game, Coventry played the night after, and it kind of put things out probably out of our reach, didn't it? And yeah, sadly, the playoffs are definitely a no-no for Watford now. Even though, Mike, I know you were planning that trip to Wembley and looking at getting in the Green Man early doors after your overnight stay, but yeah, not to be for the 24-25 season.
No, listen, I tried to stay as positive as I could, man, and I totally get it. And when I was saying all of this, obviously a lot of it was tongue-in-cheek, but the main thing was, even if I thought we'd sneak into the playoffs, there was no way on this earth that I thought we'd go and win it. I mean, getting into the playoffs with this squad would be one hell of an achievement. And like I said the other night, it was that Coventry one where they won in the last minute against Pompey. That really killed us, because I think as it stands right now, we're 6 points outside the playoffs. And Coventry play tonight against Hull away, and Hull have the worst home record in the league. So, I mean, for me to sit here and even say, there's Blackburn, Millwall, Middlesbrough and West Brom that are above us, and then you've got the playoffs. So, yeah, it really, really is truly and truly dead and buried now. I think if we'd have got a win on Saturday against West Brom, I think I'd be sitting here a lot more confident. We'd be sat on 59 points, sort of propped up a little bit higher in the table. So, yeah, it's been typical Watford, Joe, where results have gone our way, because we've had a few 12-30 games sort of thrown in there for good measure, and we haven't done our part of the job, and you feel really disappointed, because it's like, well, we've had a brilliant chance, you talk about that Plymouth game, we drew with Plymouth. Really, missed 2 or 3 golden opportunities, and that was just bio alone. And you always think, what if? So then you're disappointed come the final whistle, and then you think, right, well, these 3 o'clock kickoffs are probably going to, kick us while we're down. But then they don't, and the results go your way. And it just makes it even more frustrating that we've sort of kept the playoffs at arm's reach, almost at arm's length. And we've not been able to capitalise on it because, like we said in the group, the other day we were only a few points. I think it was 4 points after the Hull game. Granted, Coventry hadn't played yet, as you said, but you almost start to think that those 4 points straight away, you're looking at that Plymouth game. We've drawn twice with Plymouth this season. You're looking at the Oxford game away again. Very, very preventable, and should have easily got something there. And you start to look back on the season, and that's when the what ifs start. So it's been frustrating, but when you step back at the end of the season, I think you'll be able to look at the season as a bigger picture, and hopefully everyone will start to sort of realise that the fact that we're even talking about playoffs when a lot of people, ourselves included, had us to go down this season. So yeah, it's been one hell of a season, and I'm just thankful we had the start that we did at home, because without that, we could be going into these last 4 or 5 games sort of no fingernails left come the end of it. So yeah.
Like you say, I mean, when we did the prediction at the beginning of the season, I think the highest anyone out of our lot had us was 19th, I think. So, we've exceeded that expectation. But just, while you was just, saying about Plymouth and 2 points, we've actually only taken, when you look at the table, 6 points out of 18 against the bottom 3. And that just kind of tells the tale, doesn't it? We drew with Plymouth home and away. We beat Luton at home, lost away. And we lost to Cardiff at home and drew them away. So, there's your problem. You're playing the worst 3 teams in the league, and they are literally the worst teams. And we've given Cardiff that home win, which was hugely frustrating. And obviously that was on the back of Bar being silly in the Portsmouth game as well. So, had he played, it might have been a different game. But yeah, that's poor in itself. And I mean, obviously we beat Derby home and away. Yeah, we did beat Derby home, didn't we? Yeah, we beat Derby home and away.
Okay.
Hull, we've taken 4 points out of. Portsmouth yet to play second, but who's the other one? Stoke. Yeah, we lost to. We took 4
beat
points
them at home, and then we drew away against Stoke.
We've kind of done all right, really, against the rest of the teams outside the relegation zone. It's the teams in the actual bottom 3 that we've found hard this season, which is strange because I think last season we'd taken 16 out of 18 points against those teams last year. So a big difference this year for us. But yeah, we'll just have a bit of a chat with regards to the Bristol City game quickly. Obviously, it was a 2-1 defeat. A bit of a positive for me still with, I'll mention something from that game and the West Brom game, is that Imran Louza, obviously we spoke about him briefly recently. I think it was on the A to Z, wasn't it? We were talking, where we said about player of the season. He would be mine at this moment in time. If the season vote was to come out, I'd be voting for Louza. A great assist for Doumbia for the goal at Bristol City, and a superb finish, I might add, for someone who hadn't scored yet for Watford. West Brom, again, a superb ball with the outside of his boot, wasn't it, through for Musa. Just how good has he been this season for us?
Yeah, I think me and you actually sat down on one podcast as well and talked about the fact that it was when he first got back into the team this season, and it was, we were sort of saying, is this the Imran Louza redemption? And you were saying at the time he's one of the first names on the team sheet, and I dread to think what we'd be without him. And sometimes it can be a little bit frustrating that he does sit so deep, but then you see what he does and spraying some of the passes, and it's just he has so much control and so much space. I was there on Saturday at West Brom, and he sat quite deep, and some would argue it worked against us. Some would say it worked for us, but the way that he just drops deep, collects the ball, takes us higher up the pitch, but he's also got that in his locker if he wants to spray a long pass. And that, like you said, that pass to Musa, it was almost a carbon copy of his pass to Doumbia, as you say. And, you know, he's just been absolutely phenomenal. And he's one that I think is going to go in the summer. Obviously, we turned down a bid for him in January from an unnamed Premier League club, by the sounds of it. I think it was 10 million. I'm sure the Do Not Scratch Your Eyes lads mentioned when they spoke to Clevs, I think something come up then. But I would be very surprised if he's here next season. But to think where he was last season, the fallout with Val, you know, all these rumours of attitude problems. He went out on loan to France, and that the team actually got relegated. So yeah, it's been one hell of a few seasons for Loser, but we're finally seeing the player that we thought we were getting at the time of getting him, because he come in that Premier League season when we had an absolute shocker, and he perhaps didn't get to show his full potential. But yeah, absolutely superb from Imran, and it's almost the case now of these last 4 games. I think we've just got to try and enjoy him, because, as I say, I don't think he'll be here come the summer.
Yeah, I as much as I hate to say it, I do think he'll be I do think he'll be subject to a couple of bids at least, and he's only got a year left on his contract, hasn't he? So, yeah, I think he has only got 1 year left. So I can't see. It's either going to be one or two things. The club's either going to sell for as much as they can get for him, or they're going to sign him up on maybe extend it by another year, maybe.
I think the worry is we sort of have to. We've almost gone full circle, where I remember growing up watching Watford, and a lot of people that watch or listen to this will be the same, where Watford were a selling club. The way that we used to do it back then, you'd bring players through the academy, try and develop them as much as you can, and then you sell them on. And like I say, we've gone full circle now, because we bring players in, we try and develop them, and now we're at the point where we are a selling club again. And it sounds like the financial sort of strains behind the scenes are quite sort of damning, and we need to raise as much cash as we can. So yeah. I think we're going to have to sell him, and that might work in our favour. It might not. You know, people might get wins. Right, well, Watford are in the shit. Let's try and lowball them with an offer, and we might be in a position where we have to accept it. So it's going to be interesting. I'd love to see. Here we go. Actually, Philip Crouch has just said Loser signed a contract in 2022 until 2028. So he's at least got 2 years. So that should bump his price up a little bit. But I'd be intrigued to see how much he goes for. I mean, personally, I would value him. I can't remember how much we paid for him, but I would value him between 8 and 12 million. What I don't know. What would you say?
Yeah, I was gonna. Well, I mean, if he's got that many years on his contract and he's signed until 28, then I'd say there's no reason the way he's playing, the amount of assists he's got this season for us, that we couldn't get between 10 and 15 for him. I think I think that would be a fair figure for him. Yeah. I think if we could get 12 or 15 million for him, I think that'd be great business. It just depends, you know, like you say, you know, we've gone back to those old ways of when we used to sort of have to sell players to stay afloat. So you just wonder how much kind of that money we'll see, and who we'd get in and things to kind of shore up that midfield. And it would be a big hole for next year, wouldn't it? Losing someone like him. So another player I've been impressed with actually over the last few games, and I know we kind of mentioned him briefly, is Caleb Wiley.
Yes.
I've been really impressed with him. Obviously, he got the assist for Musa's goal at home to Hull. Him and Rocco Vata seem to have got a good relationship over on that left-hand side. There has obviously been talks about an extension to him staying for next season. How pleased would you be if that deal would come to fruition so soon before the end of the season?
Yeah, I think it'd be good to get that one in place as soon as we can. But me and Cam were talking about this on Saturday before the game, and I think I would still like to see us get another left back in, even if Caleb Wiley stays on. But yeah, really, really impressed. I mean, I don't know whether the bar has just been set ridiculously low for me now because obviously I've watched Yasser Larouci largely at left back this season, and then last season Jamal Lewis, who they've not exactly shone the place up. So yeah, but really, really impressed, and you can sort of see why Chelsea snapped him up. And I know they've got a lot of players where they buy him up and then they send them out on loan, and I don't think he's made a senior appearance for Chelsea, and he probably never will. But you can see that he's a talented boy, and he's growing with every game. So yeah, by all means, he's another one. I'd like to see him start and play as much as he can these next 4 games, give him that little bit of rhythm, and then let's try and wrap it up early doors so that we know that he's coming back for next season.
Yeah. I agree. I quite like him. I do think you're right. I do think we need somebody else. Would you be open to Yasser Larouci leaving then and getting someone else in, or do you think we need someone on top of the pair of them?
I would get rid of Larouci, but my worry is I'm sure there was an article floating about a few months ago now which was saying that part of the loan deal was that we had an option to buy, and I think we were looking at exercising it. So hopefully they were just false rumours. But he's out for the rest of the season now, isn't he? So yeah, I would send him back.
Yeah. Another loan player, actually been really mixed for me the last few games. I was really impressed with James Abankwah going into his suspension and his sending off from the Oxford game.
Yeah,
he's come back and he looks a totally different player. There's been quite a few errors. His positioning doesn't seem to be all there. He seems a little bit all at sea at times. And we've not seen the same quality as what we saw before that Oxford game, have we?
No, I don't think so. He obviously made that error against Bristol City. I thought he was maybe back to, I don't want to say back to his best, but he looked better against West Brom. And I really like the way that he carries the ball into midfield. And he's another one where before he even kicked the ball for Watford, he was written off. And it really pisses me off when we do that to players. Because, yeah, they might not have had a good spell wherever they've been before, but to write them off before they've even kicked the ball, it's like, what's the point? You're meant to get behind your players. So, and, 10 seconds into his debut, he goes and nails that Derby player to get a yellow. And you sort of think, oh, God, maybe a few of these whispers were true. But then he had an absolutely fantastic game. But, yeah, he's another one. It's his first time at this level. I know he's gone over to Udinese, but let's not forget, when he played in England before, he played in League One. So it's bound to take some adjusting. He's only coming in January. It's not like, I know he's been, majority of his time he's been a mainstay, but he's had the suspension as well. But yeah, last couple of games we've seen him come off and Sierralta come on, just like he did on Saturday. So yeah, if the option is there, I would absolutely take him for next season. Give him a full pre-season with us and just stick him in. And I think he'll be a great addition. But that one is sounding more like he's going to go back to Udinese, because I know a lot of this means absolutely sod all, especially when it comes to Udinese and Watford. But before, when he signed for us, he did sign a new contract at Udinese. But yeah, given the chance, I would absolutely snap your hand off to have him back next season. But I don't think we'll be seeing him in a Watford shirt next season.
Yeah, from everything that I've kind of seen on social media, the plan is for him to go back to Udinese and him be integrated into their side next year.
And do you know what? I think he'd suit that style of football down to a T. Because a couple of times, when he's been caught out with us, it's because he's maybe not made his decision as quickly as he should. Whereas in the Italian league, there's so much time on the ball. And like I say, the way that he carries the ball into midfield, I could see him racking up a few assists next season if he plays for Udinese, maybe even getting himself on the score sheet a couple of times. So I wish him nothing but the best. But yeah, I don't, like I say, I think he'll be playing for Udinese first team next season without a shadow of a doubt.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Won't really talk too much about the players that have been playing at the back. Obviously, we kind of know what we get with Matty Pollock, Jeremy Ngakia. Obviously, they've been in and around the side the last couple of weeks. Obviously, Cleves has been obviously doing a bit of rotation with Jeremy Ngakia and Ryan Andrews and mixing that up. Do you? It's safe to say that probably both Ngakia and Andrews will probably be at Watford next season. You'd say, Mike?
Yeah, absolutely. And I must say, whilst we're talking about Ngakia, this is by far and away his best season in a Watford shirt. And I saw a couple of comments after Saturday at West Brom where they were sort of slagging Jeremy off. And they must have been watching a different game to me, because I thought Ngakia was excellent. I think he tries to get us up the pitch as much as he can. And he doesn't do that bloody annoying thing that Andrews does, where he'll get so far and then he'll think, actually, no, we'll go back and we'll recycle the ball. And Ngakia's not afraid to stick it in the box. He's not afraid to have a pop if he wants to as well. And don't get me wrong, I'm not. This isn't a roast of Ryan Andrews or anything. I'm not trying to dig him in. He has got a good shot on him, and he's not afraid to pull the trigger a few times. But I just think, for defensive and attacking capabilities, this is, as I say, Ngakia's best season in a Watford shirt. And he obviously got offered a new contract. I think was it at the start of this season or the end of last season? It was like quite a lengthy contract. And a lot of Watford fans, and probably rightly so at the time, because he was going through that torrid injury spell where he just kept picking up injuries left, right and centre. A lot of Watford fans weren't happy with it, because it was like, well, why are we gifting long contracts to players who are constantly injured? And I do get it. But now, he's getting a run of games a bit more. Touch wood, he's not seeming like he's picking up any niggly injuries or anything like that. And that new contract he was given is almost seeming like a bit of a stroke of genius, to be honest. I know that they're not exactly they're not exactly pulling in the plaudits at the moment, the Potsos, but I have to give them that, to offer Jez a new contract when he's doing as well as he is. It's like I say, it seems to be a stroke of genius. So, yeah, really happy with Ngakia. Andrews, I would imagine, might be here next season. I can't see anyone coming in for him, if I'm being totally honest. So, because of that, I think he'll just stay here.
Yeah, and Jeremy Ngakia was actually really unlucky not to score against Hull, wasn't he? He had that shot, I think, in the second half where he kind of got forward. He did a bit of a Ryan Andrews, and I think he just took it a bit too far wide, didn't he? And dragged the shot wide. But yeah, I've been really impressed with Jeremy Ngakia this year. It's definitely been his best season in a Watford shirt, and I'm really hoping that he brings that form into next season and he's a good, solid right back. Actually, just looking at the last 3 games, actually, Andrews has only come on the once for him, which I was surprised about. I thought he'd come on another game, but Jeremy's got a lot of minutes and doing really well for it. So, and it's great to see him actually fit and playing regularly rather than struggling. So, yeah, that's a real big plus. Musa Sissoko. Obviously, got the match winner against Hull. Great little flick. A good finish. Maybe the keeper was a little bit at fault at the weekend. Obviously, he's got a few goals of late and seems to be doing a little bit better. But do you think, one, he'll be here next season? And if he is here next season, with Loser potentially going out of the door, do you think he will remain captain next season?
Joint third highest scorer this season because of that goal on Saturday now.
5 goals he's on now, isn't he?
He's on 5, same as Quadwo and Tom Ince. And then Kayembe and Bayo ahead of him. In all comps, by the way, before anyone says, oh, well, he's only scored that many goals. He's got another year left on his contract. So do I think he'll be here? Yes. Tom obviously rates him. I mean, the whole question of whether Tom will be even here is probably a question that you're going to ask at the end. So we'll get onto that in a bit. But as far as if Tom's here, I think Musa will be here. Do I think he should be captain? I'll be honest with you, and this might get a few reactions, what I'm about to say, and that's not why I'm going to say it, but I certainly wouldn't give it to Pollock like I said I would at the start of the season. I think his form's really up and down at the moment, and he's perhaps not carried on the potential that he had at the start of the season. So I don't think I'd give it to Pollock. So looking around that squad, especially if Loser goes, I am struggling really to see who I would give that captaincy to. Potentially swayed maybe by Selvik, but then I'm not really a big fan of giving a goalkeeper a captaincy. But yeah, maybe it will be Musa next season if Loser goes. I don't think he should be playing as regularly as he is this season, next season. I would like to think we will get players in who are above him in the pecking order. But as I say, he's experienced. Tom likes him. And to be fair, the Championship is a long and grueling season. So I think we'll see him a bit more than we'd perhaps like to. But yeah, that captaincy, that's a really good question because I'm not sure where that's going to go for next season. One thing's for sure, it's definitely got to be stripped of Bachmann because technically speaking, he is still the club captain, but he just doesn't play, so he can't be. So, yeah, it's going to be an interesting one. That I'm intrigued to see where it goes. What are you thinking on Musa?
Well, I'm going to kind of bring this in a little bit early because it was something I was going to mention at the end. But there's obviously a player that we've been linked with for a few windows from Peterborough, Cipriano, and obviously, there's a lot of talk of him leaving Peterborough already. Obviously, they've not done the best in the league this year. Congratulations to them, by the way, for a superb win in the Cup yesterday. First team to do it back-to-back in the history of the competition. And actually, I didn't actually realise until I was watching a video of Barry Fry earlier on that it's the third time that Darren Ferguson's won that competition with Peterborough at Wembley. So fair play to him. But yeah, if we do get Cipriano and Watford are serious about getting him and they go in early in the window or try between the season finishing and the window opening and getting this as a pre-agreed deal and getting it done, and he comes in, I wouldn't be disappointed to see someone like him come in and actually be captain. I've seen him be a leader in that Peterborough side. They're one of the youngest sides in the Football League this season, and they've struggled, as I say, in the league, but overall, I think he's done a fantastic job. Would you be happy to see someone like that come in and take the captaincy straight away?
I think it would be a bold move. I think a few players at the club already would have something to say about that. And we'd have to be 100% cocksure that he's going to be playing every minute he possibly can. But it's a bold move, and I wouldn't mind it. As you say, he's been captain at Peterborough. He's a young lad. He's clearly leadership qualities. He's got them. I'm really intrigued to see where this goes, if it goes anywhere at all. And it's quite interesting, actually. The Peterborough owner, Dara McAntony, he's on a podcast with another chap. I don't know who it is, but I'm sure that podcast follows our podcast on Twitter because I think we're on the same platform. I think they're Sports Social Podcast Network as well. Either way, I should probably have a look to see if they do any sort of send us your questions, because I'd love to drop a question in there. Because Darren McAntony as well, by the way, as an owner, you can't get any more transparent than he is, because he'll say it as it is, and he's said on that podcast a couple of times, "Oh, Watford come in again with another late bid for a player, but we've turned it down." From what Plevs said on the Do Not Scratch Your Eyes interview a few months ago, I might be putting 2 and 2 together here and getting 7, but he sounded pretty confident that even though we went in for another bid for him in January and it was turned down again, he's pretty confident that we are going to sign him for a free in the summer. So I would like to think that things are being done as we speak, trying to wrap it up. Granted, they probably can't do much because of his contract's not ended yet, but I would like to think preparations are being made for that conversation to be had with Kyprianou. But yeah, I'm more than happy if we want to sign young talent from the EFL. It's something we should be doing anyway. I know it doesn't always work out, but Kwadwo Bar, for one, signed him from Rochdale. Matty Pollock signed him from Grimsby. But then, you look at your Dapo Mabudes, who's not here anymore, and I'm sure there was another couple of players that we signed from the EFL recently, who it probably speaks volumes that I can't remember any of them because, yeah. But, yeah, it'd be interesting. One to keep an eye on, definitely.
Just going back to Matty Pollock, do you think that maybe his dip in form is the fact that maybe he wasn't ready for so many games this year? Do you think that potentially he was a player that Clevs maybe wanted to bring in but not play as much as what he has done? And the fact that he's played so many games in one season, obviously this is the most games he's played in a season at this sort of level. Obviously it's Gruel. I mean, I know he played a lot of games for Aberdeen when he was up there. And again, I don't know if I mentioned it, when I was actually up there for Elton John, I can't even remember now. Was it 2 years ago? No, last year or the year before? A cab driver was telling me how, year before, a cab driver was saying that, that they loved Matty Pollock and he was the best defender that he'd ever seen at the club. So he was definitely highly regarded. But obviously the Championship is a much tougher league to the Scottish Premier League. And there's obviously a lot more games, including like cup competitions as well. So, yeah, do you think maybe if Tom had maybe not played him as much at the start of the season and there was the players there to rotate, if a banker had maybe been in from the start of the season, we might have seen a bit more of a rotation. So it could be maybe down to tiredness that he's not been as strong as what he was in those first 2 or 3 months of the season.
Potentially, but I think how are you going to learn if you're not thrown in at the deep end and you play these games and you have these experiences? So, I mean, it is the most he's played so far this season. He's made 41 appearances just in the league, and that's the most league appearances he's made for anyone. Even Cheltenham, where he won Young Player of the Season on loan, he made 34 appearances in the league that season. And interestingly, you talked about Imran Louza and the assists that he's got. Matty Pollock's actually racked up more assists than Imran Louza this season. So Pollock's four assists this season. It's crazy. I couldn't name you one assist that Pollock's got.
4 assists?
Yeah. According to Flash Score, Matty Pollock is on 4 assists in the league this season. I may be completely wide of the mark of this one. He didn't cross it in for Porteous at Plymouth, did he?
Oh yeah, he did. To be fair, yeah, he did get one at Plymouth. Yeah,
was that one? Yeah, okay. Yeah. But other than that,
scored just before that as well. Actually, at Plymouth, didn't he? Had that chance.
Other than that, I'm completely drawing a blank. I don't know where the other 3 assists are coming from, but I just thought that was interesting when I was having a look and you were talking about how much he might be playing. But yeah, listen, he's still 23 years old. So, there we go. James from the Watford Way. He also assisted the bicycle kick.
Oh, so he did, yeah.
Get that one. So there's 2 that we've accounted for. The other 2, I'm not sure. If anyone knows, pop it in the comments. But yeah, look, he's only 23 still. He's got loads of years left in his career. And, maybe the end of the season just needs to come for him. He needs to have a bit of a break now, enjoy his time off, and then come back fresh for next season, because it's going to be interesting to see that defensive partnership next season. As I say, I don't think Abanka will be here. For what it's worth, I think Sierralta will be off as well. And then Caben, will we ever see him playing a Watford shirt again? I don't know. So it's going to be interesting. I think Pollock will need to sort of step his game up that bit more next season and try and be consistent as he can throughout it, as opposed to having these dips in and out of form. And I know it's easier said than done, but yeah, I just think I've not been as impressed with him the last few games. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens with him next season.
Yeah, I agree. Obviously, a young father now as well, isn't he? So he's gonna definitely look forward to the pre-season break with his family and stuff. So yeah, but yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing him again next season. I think he'll come back stronger, and he's definitely got a lot of years left in the tank. Edu Kayembe, Mike, obviously your favourite Watford player. Unlucky not to score at the weekend, I might add. A great effort from distance. Do you? I can't see him leaving in the summer. I'll be very shocked if he was one that departs from Watford. How do you kind of assess his last few games for us?
He was very unlucky not to score on Saturday. We were just behind that, and the way it smacked the post, I had deja vu because we obviously saw him rip one in last season against West Brom in the same end as well, from the edge of the box from that corner. But yeah, listen, for what it's worth as well, I think he had a really good first half against West Brom on Saturday. But I don't think anyone's going to come in for him. Bit like I said with Ryan Andrews, the only thing I can possibly see is maybe being shipped over to Udinese. But yeah, I think he'll be here next season. Maybe a squad player. If he is a squad player, he could be decent. Look, he's got 8 goals this season. You don't fluke 8 goals. Well, I say that, bloody Boyo's got 10 and he's crap, isn't he? So, but he's definitely improved. I think, and again, the bar's probably low on this one as well. And I'm glad Cam's not here to have his say, but I think it's probably Kayembe's best season at Watford. And like I say, I repeat, it is a very, very low bar. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. Like I say, if he is here next season, I'd like to think he'll only be a bit part player and we'll see him sort of bit and bob in the squad with it being such a long season.
Loves the yellow card though, doesn't he? Last 3 games, he's been booked in all 3 of the last 3 games. Can get a bit mouthy at times to the ref, can't he? And doesn't know when to leave things alone. So yeah, I actually think that for what it's worth, you know, I knocked him at the start of the season. He kind of was obviously scoring very well at the beginning of the season, and everyone was obviously really impressed with his new advanced role that Clevs had putting him in. I think when he was pushed back into that deeper role, he really didn't suit it, did he? And he looked so out of position and out of place. So if he's to stay in the role that he's been given over the last since the start of the season, that kind of false 10 sort of position, then with the advanced role, then yeah, I think I'd like to see him at Watford next season. I'd be disappointed if he left, but Chad Vakatsi and Quadro Bar, Mike, obviously they're both injured now for the rest of the season. Obviously the Bristol City game, Bar came back. I was the one, I think if you remember in our chat, I was saying, is it too soon? Are we pushing him too much? Is it worth risking him? And Cam was the one going, yes, it is, if we've still got a playoff position still to play for. 15 minutes in, there he is, sat on the floor. He's done the same injury again. Do you think that Quadro Bar 1 will be here at the end of the season? And also, how disappointed are you actually looking at it? We kind of rushed him back and ruined the rest of his season.
Just before we do go on to that, I've just had a look because it was bugging me. Matty Pollock's other assists. So James has rightly pointed out, 2-1 at home to Derby. He assisted Kwadwo Bar. His next assist come in the 2-1 home win against Middlesbrough. He assisted Kwadwo Bar.
Yeah. Flick, yeah.
He got the 1-2 against Plymouth, as we pointed out. And then his fourth assist come in the 2-1 home loss to Preston. I can't remember who scored.
Of course. Yeah, of course.
I can't remember who scored it.
It was.
Did Kayembe score?
No.
Was it even Porteous?
Hold on, I'll look. It was February, wasn't it? No,
it was Rocco Vata.
Oh, January. Yeah, because it was the Weldy strike, wasn't it? From distance.
Yeah, it was.
He just kind of laid it off to him, and it's one of those assists where it's like, I'll just have the ball rather than an actual proper pass.
I think Kayembe's racked up a few of them this season. Look, going back to your question, I remember Ben asking you, I was watching and I was commenting along, and you said that you wouldn't risk it, but I was with Cam on this, and I'm not saying that just because he's my younger brother, but I was with Cam. As long as the playoffs were still within realistic distance, and that Bristol City game was massive. And I know people will say the playoffs have been over for ages, and some will even say the playoffs have never been on. But that Bristol City game did have such a huge importance on it. I think Clev's had to start Kwadwo Bar. And I think that first 10, 15 minutes before he went down, you saw why it was so important that Bar started. Because that left back, he must have been the most relieved man in the BS postcode, because he was just getting absolutely ripped to shreds. And I bet he couldn't believe his luck when Tom Ince come on and replaced Kwadwo Bar, because it was one hell of an easy rest of the afternoon for him. But yeah, and I think it about sums up our luck this season, Joe. The fact that he started so well, we thought, here we go, Kwadwo Bar's back, Watford's playoff chances are back. We started really well against a strong Bristol City side, and then he goes and has a reoccurrence of his injury. Do I think he'll be here next season? I know Wolfsburg put in a bid for him in January. I think that was one of them, let's try our luck bids, more as opposed to a serious, we really want him, we'll do anything to get him bids. I think he'll be subject to bids in the summer. I really do. And like I said earlier, it's going to be difficult. If someone turns around and says, is 10, 11 million for Kwadwo Bar, are we really going to turn that down? Probably not. So, yeah, he's another one to sort of watch this space with, because I've no doubt he'll be subject to bids, but it's whether we get one that's tempting enough and we're desperate enough to take the cash. So hopefully we'll see him next season, because give him a full pre-season. Fingers crossed he stays injury-free. He will absolutely rip it up next season. I think a bit of a bold early shout, but if we can keep him for next season and he stays fit, he'll easily get double figures in assists next season. Easily.
Yeah, I agree. I think goals and assists, I think he could get well into double figures next season for us. For me, I think as much as I'd love to see him get a big move, I do think people might be put off by the fact that he's been injured for a large part of the season. Obviously, and the injury that he came back from has tweaked again. So people are going to want to see him have an injury-free season, I think, before they come in with big bids. Not, depending on what happens, if he stays with us in the summer, he could well start the season really well, and like you say, he could end up on like 9-10 assists going into January, and someone might come in January, and you'd probably not say no to a large bid at that point. But yeah, I personally think out of him, Loser, and Chak, I think he would be the one that stays out of the three. But Chad Vakatsi, obviously he's done for the season now. Probably not going to get to see him in a Watford shirt again. I know there was rumours of was it Everton, Wolves, and Leicester were interested in him in the January window. Leicester, obviously, we know are subject to EFL issues, and they could be in deep doo-doo coming down into the Championship, potentially with a point deduction. So they're probably not going to be doing any hefty business. But someone like Wolves or Everton wouldn't begrudge him the move, would you, Mike?
I wouldn't. No, not at all. And I'd be really pissed off if he went to Leicester, because they're in our league next season, and I think he can get that Premier League move. And I know a lot of people, Jess has just said it here, Chak's overrated for her. And a lot of people do think Chak's overrated, and that's absolutely fine. That's your opinion, and you're absolutely entitled to it. But he is very, very frustrating, and he needs to work on his end product. But my God, even with those sort of issues, he's still on his day by far and away the best player that we've got. So, yeah, I think he'd actually suit a Wolves really, really well. I think maybe a Bournemouth as well, but I don't know whether they're just that step above, especially if they get into Europe. I don't know. I think I would said it on this podcast, right? And there's probably nothing in it, but I'll mention it again. When we had the Leeds fan on, my mate Adam, he said that it was because when did we play? I think we played Leeds. I can't remember whether it was the first time round or the second time round when I spoke to him, but he basically said, I think he said it was in January, in a Leeds forum, they had separate topics on the forum, and one of them was about the January transfer window, and somebody just put a Georgia flag and left it at that. And obviously that could mean absolutely anything. They could be any player, whatever. But the fact that obviously Georgie's ripping it up, and how many times have we seen this season, whenever Watford tweet about the final score, you'll always see a comment underneath. I can't remember now off the top of my head what number Chak is. Is he number 8? I think he's number 8, isn't he?
I think, no, is he? Is he 11?
I'm not sure. No, Rocco's 11.
Of course he is. Yeah, I don't
yeah, so whatever number Chak is, they always say,
he's 8.
That number 8 is phenomenal. And every team said it was getting a weekly occurrence. So I think maybe Leeds were interested. Now, if Leeds go up, I could absolutely see them coming in and knocking on the door again. But yeah, I think Watford are going to want, out of all the players I think we might sell this season, I think they're going to want the most for Chak. I'm really intrigued to know. We've got quite a few people watching now. I'm really intrigued to know what everyone thinks we could get for Chak Tadze. For me, we said what? I said what? 8 to 12 million for loser. I think for Chak Tadze, I think we need to be looking 15 to 20 million. And I think 15... I think 15 would be a snip, to be honest. So, yeah, you said what? 25? I was going
to say 25 in the current market. You know, it's not just what he's been doing for Watford. You know, I know his end product's not all been there at Watford. Like, I watched him in the Georgia games that he's been playing, and I think the last game, just for example, I mean, the last international break, I think he got a goal and an assist, or a goal and 2 assists, maybe. And he had that long run as well, didn't he, that I posted in our chat, where he ran from the halfway line and hit the bar with a 30-yard shot. You know, he does have it all. He just needs to be better with his end product. And if he could be, then yeah, I do think between 20 and 25. If we're looking at between 10 and 12, between 10 and 15 for loser.
I think as well, what we've got to think about is, and what Georgie's got to think about is, obviously we've just talked about his end product. There's no doubt the talent's there. No one's doubting that. But it's unlocking it that is the key, and maybe a different coach will get more out of him. You never know. But he's got to really sit down and think now. And now, granted, Georgia, I'm trying to think how to word this without sounding like I'm slagging them off. But basically, they've got a World Cup coming up in is it next year, the World Cup 2026? I think it is. It's not this summer, definitely not this summer.
Yeah,
So
next summer, yeah.
He needs to think, if I make a move here to a bigger club, am I going to potentially be putting myself at risk of not playing as regularly and therefore Georgia not picking me for the World Cup? Because would he rather play more regularly and at Watford, be the main man here and really rip it up and be like, right, well, Georgia are picking me every international break. So, yeah, he's got that to think about. So it's going to be very, very interesting. But I'd be gobsmacked if he was here come the summer. So yeah,
it's one of those, and I always say, it's been great that we've seen the players that we have over the years at Watford. Just to name a couple like João Pedro, Ismail Assar, Richarlison. People like that. Obviously, Richarlison was better at Everton. He's been more injury prone at Spurs, has struggled. But people like Sarr and João Pedro, you put better players around these players and they flourish. João Pedro, for me, he's potentially going to get a huge move in the summer. I think he's going to be. I think he's going to potentially either go to Liverpool or Arsenal in the summer. Either one of those, it's nailed on for me. I actually think it's probably going to be Liverpool because they're going to get rid of Diaz and Nunes, and I think he'll really suit that sort of style of football that they play. And you put Mo Salah around him, and the Mo Salah balls that go in the box, that guy's going to score 20 goals in a season, and he's going to be suddenly even better and probably get an even better move after that. So Chak, if he goes to someone like a Wolves or an Everton or a Leeds, if he plays, he's going to have better players around him that are going to give him the ball in better positions. He's potentially going to be in and around the box a bit more. There's going to be more chances from there. Whereas with us, he's having to do all the creating. And yes. I don't think he'll be doing that in another club. So for me, I think if he does get the move, I think he'll play regularly. I think it'll be to start rather than be like a bench player. And I believe that with better players around him, I think he'll be a much better player.
Just to go back on the João Pedro thing, and obviously he's not a Watford player anymore, so I won't touch too much on him. One, it is absolutely amazing to see him absolutely smashing it. Not like that big-nosed twat Richarlison. I really cannot stand him. But I think, I've said to Dan, obviously Dan, my best mate, Arsenal fan, I have said to him time and time again, Arsenal are crying out for a striker. João Pedro is your man. He would be perfect at Arsenal. But like you say, I think Liverpool or Arsenal, and it just goes to show, as you said, better players around you. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting where Chak ends up. Also wouldn't rule out Chak going abroad, to like sort of a higher tier Italian side or, well, I don't know whether an Italian side's a good sort of example to give because I don't know whether Pozzo's would sell with Udinese being there. I'm not sure. But I could definitely see maybe Spain, going somewhere in Spain. But it's going to be interesting because of the World Cup coming up. What does he think? So, yeah.
Just one thing to mention, we do have a sell-on clause on João Pedro still, so we'll be keeping a close eye on, I think it's 15 or 20%. So
we also got a little bit of money for Harry Amas starting on Sunday today.
We did. I did see
James
that.
from the Watford Way who's in here, he broke the news. Granted, it's not a massive amount of money, but any money we can get at the moment sounds like it sounds good. So.
Still a bit of money, yeah. Just a couple more players just to touch on. Hope to see a lot more of Duomo next season. Obviously, great to see him back at West Brom at the weekend. I think he's going to be definitely one to watch next season. Yeah,
the mummy, as we were calling him in that away end, wrapped up like you would not believe. A little bit worrying, but Ngakia played his best football when he was bandaged up to fuck. So, yeah, but For me, he has to start the rest of the season now. Tom Daly's not being good enough. So I don't know if Tom Daly was on your list, but for me, if someone comes in with an offer, accept it. For me, he's not been good enough.
Yeah, he's one actually. I was going to briefly just mention and say maybe if because he's one of those more experienced players within this side, whether he maybe could be captain if Musa wasn't next season.
Not for me.
No, okay. Rocco, Rocco Vata.
Rocco Vata, he has to lead. He has to be one of the leading players next season. He has to be. Let's say we lose Bar, Chak, and Loser. I mean, what a fucking depressing transfer window that would be. But he has to be the main man next season. If those aren't there, this boy's got talent. Potentially lost a bit of that edge since he had that illness, but that's to be expected. But yeah, next season is going to be huge for him. If we can play him regularly out on that wing, I think he gets double figures goals easily.
Yeah, him. I'm really looking forward to him and Wiley on that left hand side next year if Wiley does stay. It'll be a great partnership down that left hand side. Tom Ince, do you think Tom Ince will be here next season?
I don't know how long he's got left on his contract, but for me, I think we shake his. Oh, he's got 1 year. For me, we shake his hand. Say thank you very much, Tom, but see you later. He's done all right. There's been games where he's run around like a headless chicken. Leeds at home springs to mind. He was at 6s and 7s in that, and there's been games where he's been absolutely phenomenal. So, yeah, but for me, we have to get rid next season. But we need to replace. We do need to bring players in that have experience of the league, like Tom Ince does, like Musa Sissoko does. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens there. But for me, yeah, see you later.
Yeah, I agree. I probably wouldn't keep him either. Not one for me. I'd kind of like to look to the future. Obviously, the academy guys have done a great job in the Youth Cup, and just a quick mention on that, a phenomenal run that the lads had, and a really good effort the other night against a really, really good City side. Obviously, the holders of the cup. Shame to give away a goal so early, but they dug deep and were unlucky not to get an equaliser. So yeah, fair play to them, and it'd be good to see a few of them lads in and around the first team next season. Obviously, not going to talk about Bio. We know he's off, and I've got the Uber ready for him after the Sheffield Wednesday game. I've told him to make sure his bags are in the boot and get into the airport as quick as possible. Dumbia, obviously, really happy for him to get his first goal against Bristol City the other day, and a phenomenal turn and finish as well. He's going to be really important next season, isn't he? And I think if he is our starting striker and there's some good players around him, he could easily get to double figures next year, couldn't he?
Well, that's the key. It's having those players around him, because when he started at West Brom, the three he had behind him was Sissoko, Ince, and Kayemba, and he was null and void in that game because he was up front on his own. So as long as we do have the players around him, hopefully you've got Bar out on that, Bar and Vata on either side. Fingers crossed you got Loser maybe in the middle that can spray the balls to him. If not, we got a new number 10 or a young lad, I'm not sure. But as long as it's not bloody Ince, Sissoko and Kayembe that are the three behind him feeding him in the service, we should be all right, because as you say, he's one hell of a player. He's got a lot of tenacity, holds the ball up well, and yeah, hopefully lots and lots of goals for him next season. I do fear that he might struggle to reach double figures next season, and because he's been in and out of the squad this season, is next season going to be one of them where he's sort of learning on the job a little bit, and it takes him another full season to get used to it, and really we can't afford that time. So it's going to be interesting where we go with him. I would like to see us bring in another striker, obviously, and maybe even lead with that new striker. But I do hope that Dumbia, does get his chance, and takes his chance when he gets it. Sorry, I should say, because he's quite clearly a talented boy.
Yeah, I agree. And James has put something in here about. I was going to mention this at the end. Thoughts on Bond to MLS, sell Batman and bring Roberts in as the number 2 for next season. I actually wouldn't be against that. I think that would be a great idea. I think Daniel Batman's time, as I've said it, I've called it. I haven't seen if I can get any odds on it, but I seem certain that he's going to make a move. I don't know why, to Wrexham. They're going to get promoted, and if they do get promoted, I do think. In fact, either way, do you think it would be a step down for him? Do you think he'd be against going down to League One and being a starter there? I don't know why I've got it in my head that he's off there, and I've been set on that since January.
You have to be fair. I'll give you that. So if it does come off, fair play. Do I think he would be against a move to League One if they didn't get promoted? Yes. Do I think it would be a step down for his quality? No. I think Bachmann thinks that he probably shouldn't be playing in League One. But we absolutely have to sell him. But whether we do or not is a completely different question, because I just don't think that we will. I've just got a horrible feeling, because he's another one that signed a big contract. Didn't he sign a 5-year deal when we give him the captaincy last season?
I think so, yeah. So it was a big contract, yeah.
We're not going to depart without getting paid well, and I can't see anyone coming in and giving us a lot of money for him. But for me, we absolutely have to sell Bachmann. Selvig's number 1. He's got to be. Has to be.
Yeah.
I do worry about Roberts, though, because he's not playing at Bristol Rovers. So
no, that's not really kind of worked out, is it? I think they thought he'd get more minutes. But, on Bond going, I was a little bit gutted to see him go. I'd rather have, out of the two, I'd rather Bachmann have gone. But I can completely understand why Jonathan Bond has gone. I mean, obviously, don't forget his partner's American. They've got a young child, and I think it's more of a case of going back home kind of thing, as opposed to anything else. Obviously, when you're not getting regular football, he probably looked at it and thought, the window is shutting on the 23rd, so it was a decision that he had to make quite quickly. I think, but from what I gather, there was interest quite early, so there was talks, and it kind of was settled that it would be preferable for him to move. So, yeah, wish him all the best. It was great to see him back in a Watford shirt and actually playing some regular football for us. Never really had an issue with him. Was always gutted, obviously, that he. The one game I kind of remember that he was going to have his chance, Mike. If you remember the Leeds game at home on the final day of the season, where it all went pear-shaped for Watford. Almunia was injured. Bond got injured, and then we were obviously left with Jack Bollum, weren't we? But that was Bond's moment to shine, wasn't it, really? And it could have been a special afternoon, but it just kind of all went to pot, didn't it, quite quickly? Just one thing that James also said here, Ryan Hardy would be quality for us. I wouldn't be against him. I mean, he's... I think there was something the other day they were saying that he'd scored 8 goals in 11 games, I think it is, in of late. So he's really hit form at the right time, obviously. Plymouth is struggling. They look set to go down, obviously, with those up the road. Their goal differences are really poor against everyone else. So they're actually, rather than being, I think, 3 points, they're probably more 4 points. And it just seems a step too far for them both, really. So if Ryan Hardy was up for sale, I wouldn't be against him coming in at Watford. Jess has said here, do you reckon we may get Davis back from Udinese? Seen people talking about it. I know it's one that our man Cam would be absolutely thrilled with, because he always says that he suits our style of football that we play now more. Would you be against that move, Mike?
No, but I think the reasons Jess has probably seen people talking about, it's an easy link to make, isn't it? Because he's an English player over in our sister club, and he's been here before. But no, I would not be against Keenan Davis coming back, because the way that he held the ball up was fantastic, and I think we need someone like that this season. And he necessarily didn't score a lot of goals, but he brought a lot of other players into play, and having someone like Vata and Barr over on the sides, and maybe even Caleb Wiley making them runs down as well, we could see him maybe pick up more assists and a few goals as well. So, yeah, wouldn't be against Keenan Davis, but I can't really see that one coming off, to be honest.
No. And just finally, the manager situation. Obviously, he's going to be certainly one that Watford fans are obviously over the next couple of weeks going to be talking about. We've obviously, as I said at the beginning, we've got 4 games left. Mike, do you think that Tom Cleverley is going to be at Watford come the start of the transfer window?
I bloody hope so. I was talking about this briefly in the Vine pub on Saturday, and obviously I was there with Cam, my old man, Gareth, who's a watcher of this podcast, and Mike Parkin from the Rookery Ends was with us briefly. And I sort of said, look, from what I've read as well, I don't think they'll sack him because of how much money they'll have to pay out for him. And we really are in the shit with money by the sounds of it. Mind you, that's not stopped them before. But I think if he's going to go, I think it'll be with him resigning. And it's whether he can be asked to go through all that again. Because I think a lot of what he's saying is just the front of, he needs to say a few things and whatnot. I would not be surprised if Klebs went, that this Spanish bloke that was going to take over way back when is still waiting in the wings and ready to come in. So, do I think Klebs is going to be here come the start of the season? It's a really tough question. I'd like to think he would, actually. I think he's an ambitious manager, but the doubt is just because he won't get backed. And if you know that you're going into a season and you're not going to get any financial backing, you're almost thinking, what is the point? So it's a really difficult question, and I'm going to have to sit on the fence and say I don't know. I want him to be here, but I just cannot call it. It wouldn't surprise me, like I say, if this Spanish fella come in, but I'd also wouldn't surprise me if Klebs was still here, because he loves the club, and I firmly believe that. So, in answer to your question, Joe, I ain't got a Scooby, but hopefully he is. What are you thinking?
I really want Klebs to be here. Like, I'm really, really, really hoping that he's going to be here. Like, I would love nothing more than him to still be at the club. However, I just, for me, I think, I just think that the Pozzos will want someone else. They'll want to go with another foreign manager. Obviously, we know that's a model that they like. I am surprised that Klebs has got this long, but it's only, I think, because the fans kicked off as much as they did. Yep. I think if the fans hadn't kicked off, I do think that Klebs would have been out the door in, was it early February that it all started, or late January?
Wasn't it after the Coventry game? No, it was before the Coventry game, because they had to come out.
It was before Norwich on the 1st of February, wasn't it? Because we talked about it on the pod, didn't we, when we did the pod then? So, I'd really like him to be at Watford, and I think if he is, I do think, these people like Cipriano, maybe some young Premier League talented players, I think we've got a good chance of getting some good players maybe on loan next season. I do think, if we do sack him and we get someone else in, it's going to be harder maybe to do loan business. Like, when clubs are show more stability, they want to do business because they know that people obviously are going to, potentially give players more game time. And with Watford chopping and changing, that might not happen. So, it's definitely one to keep an eye on. It'd be interesting to hear what everyone else's thoughts are and stuff on that one. But yeah, that's it from us this evening.
Can I just bug the listeners very, very quickly before we end the stream?
Of course you can, Michael.
And this is where the count that we see when we're recording, boop, goes straight down, because people are probably sick and tired of me talking about it. But we're almost there. We're almost there. There's a link running across the bottom of our screen at the moment. So for those that have been living under a rock and haven't seen me plaster the hell out of it on social media for weeks and weeks, me and Cam have been doing a lot of running. So from the 9th of Jan, I think we started. That was the first run that we did. We said from the 9th of Jan to the 1st of May, between me and Cam, we're going to run 250 miles. So before all that, Voice of the Vic have got a team. We're playing in the Mental Health World Cup at Vicarage Road, the WD18 Cup, on Saturday the 10th of May. Firstly, if you want to come and watch, you're absolutely more than welcome to. Tickets are on an early bird offer. It's a tenner. I think junior Hornets go free, and then kids only pay £1 with a full paying adult. I think that's correct. The WD18 lads will kill me if it's not. So we've been raising money for that. It goes to 4 amazing mental health charities, the money raised us. And we just about scraped over the line of raising the amount that we needed to by February. Now, we've got a deadline of the 1st of May, and we need to raise even more money to solidify our place in the WD18 Cup. I mean, either way, it'll need to be paid. So either I'm going to pay the 400 odd quid, or hopefully you guys can help donate and put some money towards it. As I say, the link's at the bottom. Me and Cam did a park run on Saturday in Birmingham before the West Brom game, and I actually sat down afterwards in the pub and worked out that meant we're only 1 mile short. So we've run 249 miles, and it's not even the 1st of May yet. For those eagle-eyed people that follow our social media, you would have seen that I put a tweet saying if we raised £50 yesterday, by the end of yesterday, to take us to the £500 mark, I'd chuck in an extra 50 miles. Well, I don't know who the hell it was, but thank you very much if it was you. Somebody donated 50 quid, but put it under anonymous. So me and Cam are doing the extra 50 miles. But then to add further insult to injury, because it's absolutely killing me, all this running is, Cam is now really, really ill. So the likelihood is I'm going to have to run these 50 miles myself from the 14th. We're on the 14th today. I've not run tonight. So I've basically got 2 weeks and a day. So I've got 15 days.
I'll tell you what, Mike, because I've not got the girls now for a couple of weeks actually now. So I will jump on the wagon a little bit, and I will help you out, and I'll do summer cam share. It's been a long time since I've done any running, but I will get out and do some running, and I'll help you knock off some of those miles off the 50, mate.
Really appreciate that. There we go. You got it on record as well, so you can't go back on your word. But yeah, Cam's on 138.5, and I'm on 110.5. So yeah, just 1 mile left to complete the 250 miles. But now we're going an extra 50 miles in 15 days to get to 300. The link is at the bottom. If it's too difficult to try and sort of see on the screen, it's in the link on our Instagram. I'll pop it in the description of this podcast as well. So if you're listening back to this, or you're rewatching this after we've been live, you'll be able to scroll down to the description and click it there. As I say, it's on our Instagram. Did a post about it on X and Facebook and Instagram as well. Sorry, I've named that 3 times now. So yeah, any amount you can help with will be absolutely amazing. I know times are tough at the moment, and I do appreciate that, but like I say, it goes to 4 amazing mental health charities. Who's on our team? Jess said Katie isn't playing. We've been asked that like 7 times, so I'm not sure whether we should have drafted Katie in, and maybe that would have got us more donations. But it's myself, Joe, Cam, A friend from Birmingham, Ben. We've got Gareth Quinton, who's a regular watcher / listener of this pod. One of Cam's flatmates at uni, and Ben Aiton's trying to sneak his way in, but Ben's got his own team at the WD18 Cup, so we're not sure whether to let him in. Huh?
We've got Paul as well, haven't we?
We've got Paul Wissenbury as well. Sorry. So yeah, we've got a good team. I'm looking forward to it. I'm not looking forward to potentially coming up against Marvin Sordell or Tommy Smith though, because I'm the one I'm in goal. So yeah, it's going to be interesting.
Sordell is absolutely ripping it up in the Ballers League, I might add, at the moment. Like he's looking like a pro at the moment.
He is.
It's like the worst time for him to be playing.
Yeah, it could be a long afternoon. But like I say, if you do come to the WD18 Cup, obviously we'll be there. We're going to head into Watford Town Centre after and have a couple of drinks as well. So if you come along and watch, do join us for a drink afterwards. I don't think... I'm not going to be at the last game of the season. I don't know how many of these guys are. There aren't any plans to have any end of season drinks, but let's just officially say now that Saturday the 10th of May, the WD18 Cup will be our end of season drinks. So me, Joe and Cam will be there and Ben will be there as well. So yeah, we'll come and join us. But yeah, thanks for watching. I think that's all business wrapped up, I think, isn't it, Joe?
It is indeed, yeah. I was just going to say that. Just quickly, Jess. Yeah, I do believe you can pound a door. Yeah,
it's 15 quid on the day.
Yeah, it is a bit more. But yeah, I was just going to say I'm going to be back. I don't know who it will be with. If Cam's feeling better, maybe Cam or potentially Katie, Ben, or even Mike. I will come back on Tuesday or even Wednesday and do a review of the 2 Easter games. I'll do both in one episode just because there's 2 games quickly back to back, just to kind of have a chat about them and how we've done in those. Obviously, I'm going to be at both, so looking forward to that. Do love the Easter weekend. But yeah, thanks ever so much, everyone, for tuning in this evening, and we'll see you all next week. Come on, you Orns.